The leadership race is hotting up in the UK, but what impact is this having on the UK and the markets? To discuss this, we're joined by Bob Mason from FX Empire. Bob, thanks for joining us as the UK leadership elections continues. What has been the effect on the UK economy? Has there been any significant impacts?
Just last month, we saw how economic data out of the UK had reflected resilience in the UK economy through the first quarter. April economic data, though, released last week was in stark contrast to the numbers we'd seen previously. Year on year, the economy grew by 1.3%, which was much lower than the 1.8% saw earlier. Manufacturing and industrial production also slumped in April. Manufacturing production slipped by 3.9%. While the numbers are a one-off, there's also the effects of the US-China trade war to consider. The numbers do suggest, though, that there's an element of hoarding that's been going on, ahead of what had been anticipated April Brexit date. Looking at labour market conditions, there was also an unexpected rise in claimant counts, and wage growth slowed to 3.1% from 3.3%. BOE Governor Carney had spoken of the need to accelerate rate hikes to curb inflation. The latest numbers suggest that he might have to pause that. And then there's also other central bank action to consider. We've got the Fed tonight. We saw the RBA cut. We've seen the RBNZ cut. So is he really going to be under pressure, or has he got room, some room to hold off for a while? On the policy front, much will depend on the economic data this week. We've got inflation figures that are due out later today and retail sales figures that are due out tomorrow. Again, that will tell another story altogether.
What's the view from outside the UK, Bob? How closely is this being watched?
Well, there's been a level of interest in the leadership race across the globe. I think the real interest comes from Brussels. What's been quite telling over the televised debates is the wide-ranging views on how to handle Brexit. We've got current frontrunner Boris Johnson, who is really of the view that Britain must leave the EU on the 31st of October, deal or no deal. Other candidates feel differently. The EU's continue to talk of the fact that they're unwilling to further negotiate any deal. That's really in the hope, I guess, of the UK having to reverse the decision to leave the EU. If Parliament is unwilling to vote in favour of any deal that the EU and Theresa May had previously agreed on, then there's really not much further that any British Prime Minister can take the Brexit negotiations and, deliver Parliament something they're willing to vote on. So assuming there's no forced general elections, each of the candidates said they're not planning to push forward a general election ahead of the Brexit date. So there's really nowhere else to go. I don't think, UK Parliament is willing to let Britain leave without a deal. The EU is unwilling to negotiate. So where does that really leave Britain? Does the EU really want the UK to leave the EU without a deal? I guess that's really the question. And will the likes of Boris Johnson, assuming he does take the leadership race, be able to shift the stance? That does remain to be seen.
Finally, Bob, with Brexit dominating this vote, what impacts are you expecting to see next, and how could this affect global markets?
As we were seeing through the live debates, it's been all about Brexit. Today's debate could get a little bit hot under the collar. Boris Johnson's the least willing to avoid a no-deal Brexit. On the other side of the fence, we've got Rory Stewart, who is looking to find a way through and convince Brussels of renegotiating the deal. Stewart really will need to focus his attention on Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove, however, who are really remaining his main competitors ahead of the Saturday showdown. Some clear mandates are going to be needed on how to handle Brexit and really answer the question of how they're going to deal with the deadlock, both in Parliament and in the EU. Johnson may look to ruffle Stewart's feathers, and rightly so. He'll be fully aware that Rory Stewart could well be his main competitor when it comes to the Saturday vote. The leadership race certainly hasn't done the pound any good. It's been on the slide. We're at 1.25 levels. A win for Johnson today and a debate would be another blow, I would say. Bearing in mind Rory Stewart could come out on Saturday and rock the boat, but that's a tall order. At the moment, it's very much looking like Boris Johnson, and that does raise the stakes for a no Brexit departure, and that has to be negative for the pound.
Well, a big thank you to Bob, and thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this interview and would like to find out more, be sure to head over to dukascopy.tv.